Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our community catch-up. My name is Andy Belford. I'm the community manager for Waystone Games, and joining me today, as seems to be our tradition every 3 weeks nowadays,
Yep.
Mr. Daniel Dibs Gibson, or Dibs Dibson. What, I don't know.
Dibs Glibman.
Dibs Glibman. Excuse
Yeah.
me. Yes, that's
Right.
right. That's right. Oh God, why does it? So when you say that, I immediately get the image of your character from Final Fantasy. Now, that's just
My delightful cat boy turned into a cat girl. Oh, wow.
follow Dibs on Twitter if you want to see what we're talking about.
That's true.
It's
Okay.
very disturbing. Your eyes will actually melt from your face. All right, guys. So, am I hyped? I'm hyped. I'm excited. Hey, Dalaran, how you guys doing? How's chat doing? Doing well. He drank that elixir.
I did
So
drink
guess-
that elixir.
the
Some
goose.
people throw their elixirs away as like they show I don't want to change, but I just drank it.
You drank it.
Yep.
You were like straight to the head.
Right.
It's all good. Anyways, all right. So we've got a jam-packed community catch-up to talk about today.
Yeah.
We have a Shaper reveal, and
Yep.
then we're also going to be showing off some new functionality, kind of quality of life upgrades coming
Yep.
to you guys this way, coming to you guys in the next patch. So that might be this week. It might not, but it's really exciting. So normally we do kind of we do a round around the community, and I do want to go ahead and just point this out really fast. Not my Twitter, not the picture of Gabe, the terrifying picture of Gabe in a beard, but. Dude, that is like he is changing.
He is changing.
He's it's
He's
like he's
turning into
becoming
something
a
else.
he's becoming a yogi. Okay, hold on. I have to show
He
this.
has a steam box.
He does.
Inside of him.
Inside of inside of his beard. All right, I got to show this. This right here. That's Gabe. Gabe is becoming he's becoming the Buddha
Did
actually.
he always have glasses?
He's
He
always
did. He did.
He's
right?
always had glasses. He hasn't worn them all the time.
Right.
But now he's got this epic beard going on. Like he is he is turning into an old beard actually.
Yeah, he's getting that next level.
The next level beard.
Next
So
evolution.
I'll praise Gaben, but wow.
Yeah.
Wow, Gabe. Epic transformation. All right, so anyways, I'm going to go over here. Gabe Dolph the Gray, I know, right? So anyways, his beard and his ridiculous Wallow's knife. What about his ham hallway, or his bacon rotunda?
I do like those walls.
the walls.
Knives.
Yes,
The
the
knives.
knives are amazing. He collects a lot of them. So, anyways, doing our normal kind of round the community, I actually did want to show off this post really quickly over on our subreddit, Dongate. So the Reddit. Easy for me to say. All right, rewind. All right, so over on the Dongate subreddit, it is reddit.com r/Dongate. Check it out. Be a subscriber if you're not already. They're over 4,000. Over 4,000 subscribers to the Dongate subreddit already. That is insane. That's crazy. Cool. Again, as always, shout out to Vanor and crew for running a good ship over there, a tight ship over there. So, did someone say bacon? Absolutely, someone said bacon. Mind-blowing bacon. Mind-blowing bacon. I've actually had mind-blowing bacon before. Anyways, there was a really interesting post that went up by Garawar about AI and Dongate and talking just about AI in general and MOBAs. And Ryan Seif, who was actually on the community catch-up last week, made this really interesting post. And Ryan actually has a lot of experience working with AI. He did work on The Sims for, what, 7 years, something like that? I don't know. Hold on. How long did I say? Yeah, he worked on the franchise for approximately 7 years. So, if there is a franchise out there that is doing things with artificial intelligence in games, I would say The Sims is definitely...
Sims AI is extremely complex,
Well,
actually.
that's the game,
That's
right?
the entire game.
Aside from buying, Katy Perry expansion packs
Right.
and building IKEA furniture in your house, I don't get. People love this stuff.
This is fun.
It's amazing.
I like
yeah,
Sims.
like I personally, it never floated my boat, but when I saw all the expansions, I was just blown away. So, anyways, Dibs sounds muted.
Hello. Hello.
You sound fine to me.
Let's see.
I don't know. Maybe fiddle with the thing. I don't know. Is this right? Hold on. Let me see here. Oh, that could be why. There you go.
Oh, good.
There you go. Now you. So for some reason it was down on the lapel mic and not on the. No, there we go. Fixed. Anyways, loud. Oh, God. So loud.
Okay. All right.
So,
Hello.
anyways, he has a really good, interesting post there. So if you haven't checked it out, go and check it out. Upvote the topic.
Yeah.
Really cool stuff.
Yeah, he's got a cool post, and also John had an interesting post too, where he was suggesting that the bots could be crowdsourced, and it was something that we were talking about last night at dinner, and Ryan had a response there too about like whether or not that'd be really feasible, and the people who've tried to done it in the gaming community as well.
Yeah.
But really neat stuff.
So, anyways, check that post out. Kind of a, that theory crafting / the nerdy stuff that I have I don't grok it at all. I don't understand engineering. I don't understand all this stuff. But I think it's really cool to read what other people are saying about it and try to glean some knowledge from it. Another thing that I wanted to point out really quickly is we did put out Primeval Part 1 yesterday.
Yes.
So the first part of fiction for the Shaper we're going to be talking about today.
It's interesting. A lot of people have been kind of theorizing about what she's going to be based on the silhouetted art that we've put out, and then the piece, whether or not she's going to have a giant luggage carrier with her, since that's in the piece, or whether she's going to be an assassin or a mage
or a tank or whatever. Yeah, no, it's been interesting to see all the kind of speculation. As always, another wonderful piece of prose from Chris Latois. Kind of as an aside, I love reading his stuff. Even the short stuff like the King of Mass section last week had, or not last week, but a couple weeks ago had, I really enjoyed that piece, as short as it was. And yesterday I was in meetings like literally from 9:30 a.m. until like 7 at night or something like that.
Right.
And so it was, but one of those meetings was, talking about the future of where the prose is going for our game and stuff. And obviously I'm going to be a huge tease right now, guys. And
He's about to do it. I can sense it.
But I will say I'm extremely excited to see where it's going. I know you guys are going to really enjoy it and love it. All I gotta say is, this is just the beginning, just the start of exploring the lore in the world of Dawngate. So
right.
Press the button, Chris. Press the button. Wait. Part 2 is loaded and ready to fire. That's
right.
Yeah, we'll be publishing Part 2 actually today at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. We'll be posting the Meet the Shaper during or after this stream, and then we'll post Part 2 today at 1:30 p.m. Pacific. So very, very excited about that. So follow, subscribe to the subreddit, follow the channel, Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff. But let's go ahead and let's get into the meat of the conversation. We got a lot of stuff going on today, so let's do it. So we're going to first talk about the Shaper reveal. Okay. And then we will talk about the quality of life changes coming in the next patch.
Sounds good.
So very exciting stuff. Let's get going here. So new Shaper reveal. Let's talk a little bit about concept, actually. And put that up there. Boom. So, boom. A lot of you guys saw this. So let's first talk about the most recent Shapers that we've had again. So we've had...
so the last character was the King of Mass.
King of Mass, Control Mage.
Control Mage. And
control your hit points, Mage. So we had King of Masks previously. Before that we had Salus, right?
We had Salus, and then before that we had Vex, and then we had Zalgus.
Okay, so
that is a Mage, a Bruiser, a Range Carry, and another Mage.
Another Mage.
Right.
Different kinds of mages.
Different kinds of mages, and we were kind of light on mages to begin with.
Okay. So we haven't really had what are we missing? Like we haven't had like a tank in a while.
So we haven't had a tank in a little while. That'd be Reyna, and then we actually haven't had a support in a little while.
How interesting.
Interesting.
Like a lane support character?
Maybe a delightful lane support character. Could be.
Interesting. All right, that's actually very cool. So so this new Shaper, are we filling the lane support? Because I'm going to go ahead and point out she doesn't look like a tank very much, but...
She's not a tank.
She's not a tank, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to be bringing out a new lane support character.
Yep.
I've had a ton of fun playing her during a playtest lately.
Super fun.
Very fun to play. I'm really hoping you guys enjoy her. I'm pretty sure you will. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about, the current state of lane supports in the game, and what are we looking to do to grow as far as our roster with that?
So there was something that everyone's kind of asked me about, both on stream and kind of internally, specifically DLS, who you guys have met a lot. He always says, Dibs, I want a character who can heal, because I like to play healing characters in other MOBAs and in other games, and I really like to play healing characters too. But it's always kind of been an issue in the Dawngate specifically because we have no resource. Many of the characters are resourceless. Many of our supports are resourceless except for Renzo. So having a character that can heal on demand is really risky. What you don't want to do there is make a character who's makes the games or the lane gameplay super passive. Like if you can just heal up on cooldown with no resource involved. You can just sit there and keep your friend at full, keep yourself at full, and then you just have this really boring gameplay where nothing happens for the first 10 minutes of the game until you get to the mid-game team fights and the late-game team fights. So it was always something we wanted to approach with a lot of caution. But it was something that I really wanted to do. So there was a point in time where I was like, okay, I want to make the healing character of the Dawn Gate, but I wanted to make sure I did it right. And the kind of the first thing to go for was like, oh, okay, well, that character should probably have a resource. He should only be able to heal so much. But I think I wanted to incentivize different gameplay there than kind of just sit back and lane and heal up. I've played that before in other MOBAs, and it does feel like I get to a certain level or I get to certain ramp in my healing, and then it's just an unpushable lane. The enemy has to engage on me before level 3 or before level 5 to do anything whatsoever. So in addition to having a resource on this character, I wanted to encourage aggressive gameplay against enemy shapers. So a support who can play passively and get some benefit, but if they play very aggressively, will get more benefit and allow them to kind of like heal or sustain up their lane.
Okay, so we're going to go into the gameplay obviously in a little while, and you're going to actually see some some gameplay in action here in just a bit. Thematically speaking, obviously the concept art is just gorgeous. I mean,
it's incredibly gorgeous.
It is, it has a familiar feel, but is very different and unique. Like you couldn't actually pin it, I don't think, into one singular trope. Like there's a lot of different elements of different things in here.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about thematically and maybe lore related. Like, what were we going for in designing this, the aesthetic? And by the way, hats off as always to Kendra for her amazing concept work.
Absolutely gorgeous.
So let's talk a little bit about thematically.
So this character was kind of conceived in a art vacuum. So when it originally started as a kit, this was during the period where the Dawn Gate was very closely reaching its close beta state, and all the artists were kind of off shapers working on things like shoring up the front end or doing icons for spells and doing icons for items. So we were in this period that I talked about last time when we were on with King of Mass, where we weren't creating new shapers as far as art was concerned. So we had a lot of characters that were being created from gameplay only, and this was one of them. And the theme that kind of kept coming up with this like aggressive resource-based support was blood character. So blood mage was what we were calling this character internally for a very long period of time.
Right.
And while I was kind of making the character, I had this very clear image of what I wanted in my head, where it was like this humanoid but not human, almost demonic, horned creature. This person. And it was weird. I had this image in my head. I was like, I can just see this thing in my head. And when I finally got the concept to a point where I was like getting pretty happy with it, I told Kendra, I was like, Kendra, I want to do a blood mage. And she was like, yes, incredible. It's like, that's exactly what she wanted to do.
Liberate tutame ex infernum.
Right. And she said, she was like, you know what? I was drawing this thing. I was drawing this picture a few months ago of this blood mage. Like, here, take a peek at it. And it was just like it was something she'd done in her off time, and it was just kind of for fun. And I had seen that image before in the past and like internalized it and like almost forgotten about it. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is what I've been thinking about the entire time. Like, Kendra had this like on her Facebook or on her DeviantArt that I'd already seen. So I was already like building off of a concept what she did. But she was like, that's a sketch I've done on my own time. So now I want to make this real and make it for the Dawn Gate and all this stuff. So then we started kind of exploring these different concepts that you see here and kind of in the early Blood Mage days. We knew that we wanted to have a demonic feel to her, but we weren't sure kind of which aspects you kind of approach that from. So a lot of times you'll see in these kind of smaller concepts that are in the middle row there, you'll see that we were experimenting with a lot of different things like, does she have wings or does she not have wings? Some of them do, some of them don't. Does she have hooves or does she not have hooves? We kind of went back and forth. Does she have horns or does she not? There's a lot of different aspects that kind of make up the demonic kind of character, and we're kind of making sure that we hit all the right angles. And there's actually like a lot of opinions about what people think is good or not. It would be like, Luke would come over and be like, oh, I don't like hooves, or Hunter would be like, what about horns? I don't know. It's like, but we settled on this place where, as you can see in the left, which is the finished concept, we have those great wings and we have those hooves. And although she has horns, they're not actually part of her body. If you kind of zoom in.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Yeah. If I zoom in here to these lower concepts, you'll see that the horns are actually ornaments and they're filled with blood. This is like blown glass that's like these blood things, but it's not actually part of her body. It's part of her headdress.
Right.
So a lot of super cool concepts, obviously, here.
Wow.
And getting the kind of look that we wanted without necessarily saying like, yeah, this is a demon from hell kind of a character.
Right.
So
Well,
super
like
cool.
the first thing, like looking at her, actually, it was evocative, not actually of a demon from hell to me.
Right.
It was actually more animalistic to me, looking at it. Like she actually looks not necessarily equine, but kind of goat-like.
Right, she's got like
Yeah.
those kind of goat legs, which I feel like
Yeah.
are kind of in tune with like the demon feel,
Yeah.
but she also has a kind of different face.
Well, yeah, even the face, like the angular nature of the face
Right.
and the ears
Very
themselves.
Yep.
The ears are actually very, like, really what did it for me for as far as like kind of goat-like, and I don't mean that in a negative fashion. I think that and that Kendra probably was trying to communicate some of that. Right. Yeah.
And this is kind of an interesting point where we would, characters come from all different locations kind of within the team, whether it be from gameplay like this character kind of spawned, although it's really spawned by Kendra's art. And we'll take a concept like this and then we'll have to bring it to the other parts of the team. So we'll bring something like this to Chris and be like, hey, Chris, now you got to write something for this. And he's like, oh, no, what?
Well, I would say he did do.
He
did
did
an
a
amazing
fantastic
job.
job. Yes.
So
he doesn't balk at anything. He'll like look at that and be like, yeah, okay, I can do it. No problem. We're like, oh, yes. Good. So good.
Hold on. Pass the beer.
Right.
Let's do this thing. So I mean, actually, if we can use that as a segue
Right.
into talking about some of Chris's work with it. So we've seen the first part of the lore. Like, so let's talk about, thematically lore-wise, like, what's the deal? Because there has to be a bigger story than she can't
Right.
be like, the only one of these guys.
She has common ancestors to people in the East. So I you know what? I feel like I don't really want to say anything because there's stuff in the part 2 and 3 that I don't want to be like, hey, it's this, and then people will be like,
Right.
oh, okay, or like when they read it, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I just heard that from Dibs. She's shares relations with people from the ancient East, which was a very, very advanced civilization, more advanced than kind of the civilization that is around today.
Okay.
And with this character and in future characters, we'll be kind of diving into that more.
Interesting.
That's what I would like to say at the moment.
So
but
it's funny
anyway.
because ironically, like I'm an actual history buff, right? And so when I'm reading fantasy novels, I'm always drawn into the history of the worlds that are built around these fantasy novels. So, like for me, I'm the guy who likes to read the original novel and then finds this one part of it so fascinating that I want to read the novel about the same world 10,000 years ago or something like
Right.
that, right? So, for me, like, honestly, like Knights of the Old Republic, in many ways for me, was better than the original franchise. So, like, I love the fact that we're starting to delve into some of the actual history of the world of
And
Dongate.
there are even little nuggets in Zalgus's story about Tarask, which is where she came from. So if you go look into the Zalgus story, you might be able to piece together a few things as well.
Okay, very cool.
Cool.
Very cool. So we'll have part 2 again of the story coming out today at 1:30 p.m. So Pacific. So be sure to check it out. So we've covered all that. We're going to talk about gameplay and abilities. But without further ado, I want to go ahead and show off some of Kevin Lee's amazing work here.
All right, do it.
And we're going to reveal to you for the first time ever our new shaper, Viyana the Purifier.
Yep.
So there you are, folks. That is actually the arted up render of her. So it's the in-game render right there. Go ahead.
Alrighty.
Do over. I know, right? Time to swap to OBS. Everybody. Actually, if I had my way, I would be using something completely different. But anyways, all right. So there we go, guys. Viyana the Purifier.
Yeah, that is super awesome render.
It is amazing render. Kevin Hyun Lee did very, very good work on that, as always. I'm sorry, not Kevin Hyun Lee. Kevin Gisado Lee, I should say. You guys know him as Gisado. So there we go, guys. That is the reveal right there. So she's a train.
She looks kawaii.
She looks kawaii, actually.
Thanks, Bree.
I love No Compromise Gaming.
She's Draenei.
Yeah.
Ah.
A little evocative of
She
that.
got those good hooves.
She does have the good hooves. She does have the good hooves. Anyway, so she's pretty damn kawaii. That is very true. Thanks, Pat. So anyway, Viyana the Shaper, part of the what was her race? Did we say what her race of people was called?
Leave it to Chris.
Leave it to the lore. Okay,
Leave it to the lore.
We'll leave it to the lore then. Anyways, but what you do know already from the East.
From the ancient East.
From the ancient East, yes. So, we will obviously in the lore be talking a little bit about the magic or the shaping that she practices.
A very specific brand.
That is right. Am I the only one getting kind of an Indian woman feel? Interesting. That's an interesting observation. So,
You'll actually, she has a very interesting accent, and if Nekobus is in the chat, he can kind of talk to that because it's very unique.
Well, I'll tell you what then. Let's go ahead and jump just straight into the gameplay, and we'll start talking about that a little bit.
Alrighty.
Pluto wants to fire up the game, and we will, or whoever, they're going to start the game. Okay.
I thought we get to hear a little nugget.
A little nugget of her. I might actually have the volume turned way down. I don't know if they can actually hear it or not.
It's too quiet.
It's very quiet on ours.
All right, we'll be able to hear it once we get in the.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about, obviously, like we said, lane support. She is a mage support. Is that correct?
She's we don't classify supports as that, so it's just a support character.
Just a support character.
Yes.
Okay. Role wise, tactician, predator.
Pretty primarily, I would take her as predator, like I would with most supports.
Okay.
You could take
predator.
predator. She has a lot of kill potential. You kind of see, especially at level 6.
Mhm.
So predator definitely could work.
Right.
But I prefer tactician.
Okay, that is true. You prefer
I
generally.
prefer tactician on every character.
I say you generally prefer tactician in general.
Oh, playing Kindra, gotta play tactician Kindra.
Gotta play tactician Kindra. Gotta play. You playing Fenmore.
Right.
Gotta play tactician Fenmore. So
good.
Speaking of actually Fenmore, so some of her mechanics are a little similar.
So
and we'll see that.
So you'll see as we get in that she is the second health shaper in the video game.
That is right. That's why we called her. Blood mage.
Blood mage.
There's some definite allusion to that as well, just in her design. I'm going to scooch on over here then, and we'll get you guys started. So we weren't able to show the Shaper Select, but what we can tell you, go ahead and actually, if you can pull up the XSplit client, you don't want to turn the master all the way up.
Okay.
It'll be deafening for the folks at home.
Sorry, XSplit client?
Yeah, the XSplit client, and then just move over to the game cam. That's right, and then you want to minimize the XSplit client as well if you want to see the chat. So.
Okay, and then let's see. I think you might have the Dawngate client turned down. Potentially, I can't hear her talk.
Well, we're pretty darn.
All right, let me see if you guys can hear her or not.
Soft breath.
Oh, it's too quiet.
Well, here, hold on. I've got the. All right, now try. There you go. You can hear it now.
Imperfection.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Excellent.
So here she is, Viyana, the Purifier, and my friend Varian. Everyone's saying, "Oh my God, look at that blood animation!" Yes, we now have sweet ribbons in the game. So this is the first character who uses ribbons tech. As a little side note, and hats off to DLS for putting that into the game.
Excellent.
So I'll grab some items, then I'll move into a place where we can hear her talk a little bit.
Alrighty. So, we took tactician. As far as loadout goes, what do you generally look for in loadout for her?
So I like to take force bubble, as I do on a lot of on the other character who has health costs as their resource, because it helps to mitigate that. I don't want to be that guy who's just teasing, but I use a different loadout that is not in the game currently.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm that guy, but soon.
That is true. You'll have to tell me off stream so I know what to do in the next playtest with her. So.
Okay. So here she is. All right, can you guys hear her? The voice is okay, so that I can play a few things. Let me get a response from the stream about that.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they're commenting on the VO already, so they can hear her.
Okay,
for sure.
So I'll do a handful here.
We may permit you to touch us. Wash your hands.
She's very condescending.
Ill-formed whelp. Remove yourself from our presence. What could a man offer that we cannot do for ourselves?
Another flirt.
We require samples of your bodily fluids for analysis. Disrobe.
That one's my favorite. And I'll do a little dance.
It is not ours. Ours is too precious. This was donated.
She kind of dances around with her little blood staff, making nice little pretty things in the air.
Caleb, what is the accent? It's like, it's almost like Boer. It's South African.
It's South African is what it is.
Is that what it is?
Yep.
Yeah, so like I'm just thinking, I'm like, where have I heard this before? And then I'm like, oh wait, no, it's in District 9. District 9. Like it's that same accent, that Boer accent. That's really interesting. Wow, very cool.
So I'll go over to our general demo spot by the little parasite, and I'll go through her abilities.
All right.
So Viyana's passive is Health Shaper Pulse. So Viyana uses health to cast her abilities, just like Fenmore does. And as Viyana's health decreases, she gains increased effectiveness of heals, regen, and life drain. So this is similar to what Fenmore's passive does. Fenmore gives him power, so as you know, the cornered wolf Fenmore is always something you always want to be very careful about. Viyana gains something a little bit differently. As she gains lower, anything that would heal her has increased effectiveness up to 25%, even from levels 1 to 25. It's a non-scaling passive, but 25% effectiveness of all healing on her. So this basically means that as she gets lower, she gets more sustainy and more tanky, and you'll kind of see how that plays into her kit.
Just as an aside, you realize people are just going to walk around with her.
Oh yeah, it's
just
so
to watch
good.
the ribbon effect. Wow.
I also really like when you stand still. It like wraps itself around the staff. Let me stand like this. It'll like wrap and
like
coil around.
Yeah.
So like I said, new tech. Hats off to DLS and Kyoshi for putting in that delight.
There.
Okay.
So Viyana's Q is Needle. She fires a. Let me zoom out. She fires a projectile of crystallized blood in target direction. God mode. This will deal magical damage to the first target that it hits, and then it will spawn 2 projectiles that return to Viyana's allies. These projectiles will heal them, and they will always seek out Viyana's lowest health allies. So you can see right here, I will do a Q, and these projectiles will come back and heal both me and Pluto.
We hear it.
This will only spawn 2 projectiles if I hit an enemy shaper with the Q. If I hit a normal minion, it will only spawn 1 projectile, and it will go to the lowest % health ally in the area.
Okay.
So this is a really powerful lane sustainability. If I'm using it, I would say slightly. Oh, Parasite's coming alive. I'm just
He's your friend.
So if I'm using this semi-passively and I'm using it on just minions, I'll be able to sustain myself and my my ally exclusively. But if I'm able to hit shapers with this on cooldown, I can heal both of us and really be getting a lot of sustain. Very powerful ability. So Viyana's W, which I have not ranked up yet for a reason, is Pure Blood. Upon ranking up the W, she begins to generate blood orbs. They generate slowly and passively over time. The generation rate gets faster as I rank up the ability. While having blood orbs, Viyana will they will seek out low health targets below 30% HP that are Viyana's allies, but are not Viyana. You'll see as Pluto gets lower and lower and lower, as soon as he drops below 30% HP, oh god.
You press button.
What button?
I don't know, just Alt-Tab back out and go to the...
Buttons.
You pressed F1.
Sorry guys.
Yeah,
Pre-show idle.
I need to unbind all that stuff.
It's too bound.
Yeah.
This stream today. So good. Sorry. So as Pluto gets below 30% HP, one of my blood orbs will immediately seek out and heal him. Whenever an ally is healed in this way, that they cannot be healed in that way for a certain amount of time. So you'll see that Pluto has that kind of cloudy debuff on him right now. For 15 seconds after he receives a W heal, he cannot be healed again. As soon as that cloud goes away, as it just did, when he walks back into range, he will be healed again. Okay. So this is a super powerful ability. This passive portion of it is very powerful for healing. Whenever if I'm in a team fight that's about even, and my teammates are getting low as the enemy's getting low, these blood orbs will start to heal all my allies as soon as they can, and really it could possibly change the tide of a team fight. However, Viyana's W also has an active component. Viyana can consume one of her blood orbs and toss it to target location, like this. It will deal AoE magical damage and mortal strike all targets in the area. So any target that's hit by this will have reduced effectiveness of their own healing of any kind, whether it be regen, healing from abilities or life drain.
Hold on to your questions, guys. We will be answering questions later on. So question regarding her W from me, actually. Do the orbs, does the potency of the orbs on both sides, the damage component and on the healing component, does that scale with anything? Yeah,
so I should talk about kind of her scaling in general. So Viyana scales slightly differently than all our other characters in the game. Viyana's damage scales off of power, and all her healing and sustain and shielding scales off of bonus health. So all health that she gains above her base scaling. So this kind of lets Viyana's build 3 different ways. They can build very aggressively, and I've seen that be very successful. They can build very, very health heavy and be very, very sustaining but not do much damage, or they can kind of build that nice mix. Items like someone just called out Rampancy, very, very good on her.
Yep.
A lot of health, a lot of power. It's fantastic.
Yep.
All of Viyana's abilities scale like this. Also, someone asked, does haste affect generation rate? It does.
It does?
Yes. So as you can see here in the tooltip, there's that blue number there. That means that it's scaled with haste. she will generate blood orbs faster the more haste that she has.
Wow.
We
Yep.
walk among
TIL.
villages.
Viyana's W, the active portion of it, has no cooldown. It has a 0.5 second cooldown. She can cast blood orbs as often as as long as she has them. So you can see right now I have 5. I can just cast until I'm out of blood orbs. Each additional blood orb past the first, if cast in rapid succession, will deal less damage. Currently, it will deal 35% of the damage it would normally deal if it's cast on a target who still has the Mortal Strike debuff. So there's a few different ways you can use that. If you have a target that needs to have their healing reduced, someone like a Fenmore or a Volek using their ultimates, you can continually spam that on that target to make sure that you're getting the Mortal Strike, even though you're going to be reducing your own damage. However, you can meter that usage out, save your blood orbs slightly, and you'll be able to do more damage but have less overall uptime of your Mortal Strike.
So we did talk about Mortal Strike. What is the percentage of healing reduced on Mortal Strike?
So it ranks from 1 to 5, from 25% to 65%. So 65% better than Pain. Very, very, very good.
I was going to say, we don't actually have anything in the game so far that does 65% Mortal
Correct.
Strike, do we? So
Yes.
this is a first. Okay, very
Right.
cool.
Very strong. So that is Viyana's W ability. I should also note that Viyana cannot be healed by her own blood orbs. If Viyana drops below 30%, it will not heal her.
Very good point.
So
Very good to point out.
Viyana's E is Leech. She curses target enemy, dealing magical damage over time. Each time that the magical damage ticks, a nearby ally of Viyana's will be shielded. The shield stacks several times, and it has a very short duration. It will always seek out the target that has the lowest health. So if I bring myself lower than Pluto
must
is,
remain
and I move into Amaranth, it will be shielding me, but if Pluto was lower, he'd be receiving that shield.
Okay.
So this is a very useful ability in a lot of different situations. In a team fight, using this on a Shaper will deal damage to them, obviously, which is good, and then it will always kind of seek out that most in-danger target to get the shield that you need to keep them alive.
Okay.
In lane, it can be used in a lot of different ways. She can use it to help engage if she has a melee character in lane who's going to be trying to engage on the enemy. She can use Leech on a enemy Shaper as they engage and guarantee that her ally will be getting a fair amount of shielding for the duration of the fight.
Is there a range, like a soft range on the kind of bounce back of the shield?
Yes. So the range is... So the range is shorter than the cast range, but it's about 450, where her cast range is about 625, I believe.
Okay.
So if she casts at max range, and an ally is closer than her, they basically will be getting it regardless of health until you move in.
Right. So
another thing to note about the E is that each time that a shield is received by any of her allies, the cooldown of E gets reduced by 0.5 seconds. So in lane, if you use this ability just as single target range damage, which you can, you will be able to use it less often unless someone is there to actually receive the shield. So often I like to use my E and then move in aggressively myself, lining myself up for an easy W hit or an easy Q hit while reducing the cooldown and getting that shield myself.
Okay, so like for example, like a good
must
lane
remain
synergy, and we'll
human.
talk a little bit more about lane composition later on, but you know, like her with like a lane Freya or something like that, that would be pretty complementary then,
Yes.
because of the shield component.
Yes. Like
Okay.
when this character was conceived, and remember that this was very, very, very early in beta, there was this perception in the community and perception that we had as well, which was lane is not super viable. Lane melee is not super viable. And we've made a lot of changes to kind of to combat that. Things like the way that the armor item works and the life item works. And also systemic changes like all melees have increased range on their basic attacks, which kind of made it such that they could they perform better in lane now. So
Okay.
so Viyana is very good with a lane ally, and she's also very good against lane melee ally, and very good against lane melee enemies.
Right.
If they dive in and she uses Leech on them, she's going to be guaranteeing that one of her allies will be getting that shield.
And not to mention her last ability.
So her last ability is Exsanguinate, and I'll just use that first.
The blood!
The blood! So Exsanguinate is a 2-second channeled suppress. Viyana will suppress her target enemy Shaper and deal damage to them over time. During
We
that
feel the
channel,
pulse.
she will be healed several times. So just again, see that each one of those blood things that are flying back to me is actually healing me quite a bit. So this ability is extremely powerful. If you've been playing a lot of Dongate, you know why, because there's only one source of suppression in the Dongate right now, which is Moya's ultimate, and this adds a second ranged suppression. If if a Freya is out of control on the enemy team, she activates that blitz, she dives in onto your range carry, boom, you just use your ultimate, and then she's suppressed and can't do anything, and your team just wipes it up.
Soffre.
It should be noted that her ultimate channels Viyana, so Viyana cannot play any. You cannot use any of her abilities while she's channeling. So.
Flow.
So she's essentially stunned during the duration. Additionally, Viyana can be stunned, silenced, or knocked out of her ultimate, and it will cancel.
Okay, that's good to know. Tulsa. Tulsa's like, you guys totally made this despite me. Screw you. Well, and that's actually a very good point that's been brought up in the chat by a couple of people. This is a really good, strong counter to a Fenmore or even to like a Kendra. I mean,
absolutely. Anyone who can dive into your enemy team and requires continual ability usage to survive, this is a really good way to shut them down.
Okay.
So this is a really powerful ultimate in general, but it kind of needs you to be aware of what is my team doing? Are they going to be able to follow up on it? And is anyone in that area going to be able to cancel the channel? So if you see a Zeri, you got to watch out for that silence. If you've seen that Zeri has blown her silence, that's probably a good time for you to actually engage with Exsanguinate.
Yeah, Free Phoenix, what I can't hear you over the use of my stasis. This is true. Like stasis, stasis won't cancel that out though because it's suppression, right?
Yeah, you can't cast stasis while you're suppressed.
That is true.
So you will not be able to get out of this. So let's see if there's anything else that I missed. I think that is it. So I like to use Exsanguinate both very aggressively and very defensively. Using it on that blitzing person that's coming to your team is probably one of the best, most obvious uses, but it's a very good ability to catch someone out. Yep. Even at level 6, if you have a lane partner who relies on a skill shot ultimate, someone like Varian or someone like Nisa, being able to just immediately hit 6, immediately go QE, cast a W, and then use your ultimate is a really good combo to just do tons of damage and let your team follow up very well, very strongly.
Yep. So that's it's actually really interesting. Like you were saying, defensively using it. Like in the playtest the other day when I was trying her, when I was playing her, that's exactly what I did. I baited. We have a jungler in development, a very strong jungler in development, and he just dove me because that's what this jungler does.
Right.
All I did is I just kind of stood back and waited, and then he dove me, and I'm just like, why don't I just suppress you under the tower? I'll take your health, and the tower will hit you, and suddenly that just shuts them down. Defensively speaking, like if you are a tactical player, this is a very strong ability.
Yes, very strong. But it also has the weakness of being, of course, channeling Viyana so she can't do anything else, and being relatively easily interruptible.
Okay.
Oh, the parasite just keeps living and dying.
He does.
He's so sad.
He does.
Another thing to note is that if Viyana uses her Q and E prior to using her R, she's kind of, those things are on cooldown or they're already ticking. Her W, the Blood Orbs passive, will continue to heal targets who get below 30% health, even if she's channeling. So Viyana can still be very effective even as she's channeling, if she's used all her abilities beforehand and has Blood Orbs ready on her W.
Yep. So let's talk about spells. Because I'm seeing lots of questions and lots of folks who are there's some strong reaction, I would say, from certain folks. But let's talk a little bit about spell selection for Viyana.
So generally, I like to. Right. I almost got baited every time. So generally, I like to.
Wait, can you show it on this one?
He says I can do it. Oh,
okay,
I
yeah.
can't do it. So generally, I like to take a relatively supporty spell selection. So I generally like Deflect. It helps well with Viyana because it lets her mitigate the health costs of her Q and her E.
Right.
Tailwind is also a very good support ability. And then I kind of like to take a Wither or a Stagger. Wither kind of doubles up on the usefulness of her R. She can already shut down a target if she then withers him prior or post using Exsanguinate. That target's going to be shut down for a really extended amount of time.
Okay.
If they have someone that is kind of like that needs to be withered, alternatively, I can take Stagger. I can use that to close in before I use Exsanguinate and get the suppression off.
Okay. So yeah, that is one thing to point out. Like she does have some drawbacks. I mean, obviously her lack of mobility is a big deal.
She has no mobility, but the main thing is that compared to our other supports, she has essentially 0 utility on her base kit, and that's really, really important. Whereas Dibs, Zeri, and Renzo all have slows, they have stuns, they have knockbacks, they have armor shred, they have MR shred, move speed, tons of these different types of utility. Viyana sacrifices literally all of that for sustain, shielding, and then the mortal strike. She has no CC whatsoever on her base kit, only on her ultimate. And that really changes kind of like those mid-game team fights where you can successfully fight when her ult's already on cooldown or whatever. Unlike someone like a Dibs who can bring a lot of core kit utility there.
That is actually really true. I mean, one of the immense strengths, and we've seen this week after week with Battle in the bot lane, with Dibs, is the fact that he has the Nightmare stack. Like,
right.
That's a huge damage increase. And
right.
so you're absolutely right. It's like her ult is really very powerful, but as long as you're paying attention to the cooldown of an enemy, Viyana, like you're going to know when to engage and when to try and bait it out.
Right. Viyana has a lot of power ratios, but she has to sacrifice her sustain if she wants to really take advantage of them. She has more power ratios than say Dibs, Zeri, or Renzo, but if she does power, she does not scale her support abilities off power like they do. So it is possible to get that kind of more damagey support and just go off the base healing and base sustain and base shielding of her core abilities. But it's more of a trade-off on Viyana.
Yep. Yeah, the second that she ults, it's super obvious. Desecrator knocks her up and no more ult. That's very true.
It is in a coordinated team fight, it is difficult to get a full ult off unless you're really paying attention to enemy cooldowns. Is there a Z on cooldown? Is Renzo Z on cooldown?
Yep. Yeah, I definitely think like if you are up against a Zeri, like they're going to be saving that E. Like
absolutely.
In every team fight, it's going.
Right.
It's going to be just like target the Viyana, wait for her to cast her ult. So.
Yep.
So item-wise, let's talk about items.
So
you mentioned
teleport back here.
Mentioned Rampancy earlier.
So Rampancy is what I consider her main core item. I always attempt to build Rampancy. To start off, I like to build life. The sustain is nice to counteract the health cost of her abilities, as well as giving her additional sustain and shielding. And then I almost always go for Rampancy first. It's just too good on her.
Right.
Creation is also very, very effective on her.
Yes.
You can gain even more increased effectiveness of heals, regen, and life drain that she already gains from her passive. And doubling down on that can make heals on herself extremely potent.
Yeah.
Another really core item for her, especially being support, is Inevitability. It's got a nice mix of power and health that normally, Dibs can take advantage of the health, or Zeri can take advantage of the health, but not necessarily as much as Viyana can. So Inevitability combined with the Frost 2 passive is very strong. If you want to go defensive, I think that Destruction is obviously a very good choice because you're going to need to be getting through their magic resist. And Oppression's really good too. If she's moving in and using her Leech on cooldown to get that extra shielding, she needs to be close. She's going to be getting the Oppression aura debuff. And then for defensive items, Protection is pretty good because it gives you you already have a lot more health. You want to build a lot more health naturally than a support, so getting some additional armor magic resist is going to make you very tanky, and it has health on it as well. And obviously supports your team.
Right. Well, and Protection, could be,
a stamina unit.
It could be a stamina or a unity too. Like it's very important when you put out the Protection family of things, pretty much to say. So.
Right.
Or the Fortitude family. So.
And then finally, Rebirth. So because Rebirth restores health based on a percentage of your maximum health, it can be very, very effective to get it. She likes haste and she likes health. This has a lot of it and will make her even harder to kill when she drops below 30% health.
Wait a minute, the colored stats, that's new.
I know. Look at it. There
it is.
That's
new. I was just thinking about that. Wait a minute.
Spoilers. now you get to see all the delightful.
That is. Ho.
Yep.
There we go. Spoiler alert. Thanks, Lucas.
Yep.
So let's, folks actually at home did want to say something about, they didn't see the auto attack. You might want to turn off God.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Sorry. Let me make sure I got it off. Yeah, I do. Okay. The auto attack is pretty delightful. So I'll just attack. Shoots these little blood things.
Nice.
And uses that new animation tech. So
I was about to say, it is a very fluid auto attack animation. It's really nice looking. All right, so we've talked about abilities. We've talked about items. We've talked about spells. Let's talk about lane compositions.
Okay, so she does very well with a lot of people, a lot of different lane partners. Really, I would suggest to put her with anyone other than people who need hard CC to survive. So someone like Vex was probably not someone I would put her with, although Vex and her are actually really good on a team together. So having Vex in one lane and her in the other lane, coming into that late game, because Vex has a lot of trouble with blitzing characters diving onto him. Same thing kind of with Nisa to a lesser extent. But pretty much anyone else I would put her with. There's some interesting choices you can make depending on what her lane partner is, as far as what abilities you level up first. So for instance, if I have a lane partner who has a lot of sustain, someone like Fenmore or someone who's taken Hunger as an early start, I can actually forego maxing Q, which is what I would normally max, to max something like W or E. The shielding is going to be more useful to someone who can already sustain themselves, or if I'm against someone like a Fenmore or a Volek, I can use that W to shut down all their healing. It should be noted that another good way to use the W in lane, regardless of kind of what rank you have it at for that Mortal Strike effect, is as soon as you see someone activate a potion, just start to spam that W because you're going to reduce the effect from that potion massively.
That makes sense, actually. That's interesting.
So, and then you see Fenmore throwing out his E. You know exactly where he's going to be to try to pick up the wolf. Just throw your W right to that spot and Mortal Strike him before he picks it up.
Okay, all right.
So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. Personally, I like to play her with bruisers. If you had someone like Petrus is a pretty popular lane bruiser at the time, Freya as a melee carry. Even Cerulean or Volek would be good too.
Okay.
But Fenmore is also a very good natural composition. Like he can already sustain. You don't need to worry about it. You just kind of focus on all that. Focus on all that offense.
Okay, so basically, like if you need to peel, so we're talking like to some extent Anissa. Vex is definitely a target. You may want to think about that composition.
Right.
When you're talking about, and obviously we're talking about range characters right now, Michaela, Varian would be more complementary because they have the mobility. They don't need the peel quite as much. Lane composition, like a Cerulean, Freya, things like that.
Yep.
Pretty good matchup, I would say.
And mages who bring their own CC to the field, people like Zalgus or Aranth, are very good to be there. I mean, that means that those characters can walk up and do a full trade, and she's going to be able to help them win that trade by the sustain or the shielding.
Right. That's very true. Very true. All right. If you're playing against a Viyana.
So if you're playing against Viyana, and we've said this a million times for other characters, buy a pain. if you can see that it's going to be an issue, her lane is starting to get out of control, or she got a few early assists or early kills, buy a pain. I mean, obviously she has a lot of healing across her entire kit. She can heal her allies, she can heal herself, she can heal herself with her ultimate. She's got all these different ways to do it. If you buy a pain, it's going to shut down a ton of her effectiveness.
Okay.
Another part of playing against Viyana that's kind of different from the other supports, and it's something that I really like about Viyana, is that there is a decision to be made about kind of who to focus in a team fight, which is always a decision to be made. And oftentimes, people like Dibs, Zeri, and Renzo are very low on that list unless you get a really easy pick. Like if Dibs, gets out of position and you can just kill him. But most of the time, you'll want to focus people like range carries and mages before supports. Viyana is a little bit different. Although she gains increased effectiveness of heals as she gets lower in HP, her W cannot heal herself like it can heal her allies. She is a very, very desirable first target. If you can kill a Viyana before you start to focus on her other teammates, you're going to reduce a ton of healing, which is where a lot of her power lies. A little bit more than kind of the distributed power of Dibs' like damage and shielding and utility. So it's a little bit of a different mindset, but I will very often focus down a Viyana first if I can.
Okay. Late game, I'm not going to go anywhere near her. Personally, late game, strong. She is going to be 1 strong, 2. She, if she does a full build, she's going to be tanky as all get out.
Right.
For a lane support, obviously.
Right. Yeah, she generally can't afford the armor magic, so she's got a lot of health. Anything that can burn % health, some abilities like Petrus's Q or things like Ruin are going to be very, very effective. She may look like she has a lot of health, but she's kind of going to be missing those tanky stats.
That's very true. That's a good point. Thank you for that information. All right. So before we get into the other quality of life upgrades, actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and we're going to show off some of the quality of life upgrades, guys. And don't forget, if you want to rewatch this, want to get some more information on this, we are going to have the VOD up later on today. So I wanted to show you guys some things that are going to be coming your way. We're going to be this isn't it, but we're going to get through this really quickly. But we have heard loud and clear your guys' request for some ways to handle other toxic players in game, and I want to be very clear that what we're going to be implementing in this next patch is a first step. It is not what we consider a complete. Don't close that out yet. It's not what we consider a complete solution. But if you can go ahead and right-click Pluto's name, please.
Alrighty.
And look at that.
So I'm going to report Pluto because he's being a troll.
Pluto is such a troll. So we would like to introduce to you guys a report functionality. So what we call basically kind of step 1 of basic report system. Right-click report from the scoreboard. Also, you can do it from the social panel. If you can just open up on the right side there, the social panel.
Oh, I can't while this thing's
okay.
Yep.
Recently played.
There's Pluto.
Yep.
And of course, obviously, I want to report him for an inappropriate name.
Okay, so there we go,
Report
guys.
has been sent.
Your report has been sent. So that we have added this functionality into the game. You will now be able to report players. If you report somebody, it will automatically ignore them for you. So you will never have to see anything from this player, anything this player says again if you so choose. So of course, remember you can always unignore somebody by just typing /unblocker/UB and then the player's name. So. The other thing that we are adding in is if you tuned into the community catch-up last week, you may have heard about some of the matchmaking improvements that are going on. Well, we're going to be adding those in on the next patch. So, very important. And with those matchmaking improvements comes a kind of a really important and very very much an often requested quality of life feature,
Right.
auto requeue. So, if a player or somebody declines a game, you will be automatically requeued back into game. So, Tulse is... Okay, awesome. Okay, guys, so there we go. Auto requeue.
Yay.
Report functionality both in the after game scoreboard and in the social panel. And MMR improvements all coming to you in the next patch with Viyana, the Purifier. So, all right, guys, we got some time. We're going to take about 10 minutes or so, and we're going to not give away. We're going to
Give away some keys.
We have been giving away keys in the chat, actually. So, but right, Pluto? We've been giving away keys in the chat?
Cheese.
Cheese? Have we been giving away cheese in the chat?
Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully you guys are following. Cheese, so much cheese.
That tasty Gouda.
Lactose, yeah, the Gouda. Gouda. Anyways, so we are going to take some questions, guys. So if you have a question, go ahead and type a Q with a capital Q with a colon mark, and then put your question after it. Go ahead and keep it, if you can, to questions about Viyana. Keep in mind, Dibs is not like an engineer, and he's not the guy who does the player system stuff. So if we're talking about Glicko and we're talking about anything engineering-wise, we're not really going to be able to give you a satisfactory answer, probably. So,
all right, let's see what's going on here.
so please, if you have questions about Viyana, let's give some questions about Viyana.
Are the stat colors a quality of life that we're going to get now? So this is a build, so yeah, it should be in this next one. I believe it will be coming in this patch.
Okay. So reporting for bad matchmaking, what does it do to the reported player? So it actually doesn't have any negative impact on the player.
Right.
It's more directional, and it's very important that one of the things actually that we actually had a very long discussion about is if you look at other game MOBAs, they actually say report for unskilled. And I made it very clear. I made a very good point, very strong point, that I don't want anything in game where we're calling another person a name like that. Basically, there's a very negative impact on that. I would rather that we assume the blame for a poor matchmaking solution than anybody be given the opportunity to basically speak derisively about another player.
Right.
So,
I have a feeling that our telemetry people are going to be looking at those particular reportings and saying like, what happened in this matchup that made people have that perception?
Yep.
Was this a bad matchup, and is it on us that something happened in matchmaking that made this happen?
okay. Can Viyana's ult stop a Moya ulting towards you?
It cannot.
Ah.
So characters who are immovable, which is a keyword we kind of use internally, will not be stopped by that ultimate. They will still take the damage, and they will still take the healing, but they will not be suppressed.
Okay. Let's see here. Is there an in-game mute? Now, there has always been. It's a /B feature. So it's a block feature. Forever Stallone is asking, are you going to... Oh, he might get some flack from other players on the channel about this one. Are you going to buff King of Masks range? In the first 15 minutes of the game, he takes more damage than he deals when his E's to throw empowered eggs. He feels like the range on his E is...
Right.
Yeah.
So King of Masks has slightly shorter ranges than other casters, other mages, because of the range of his W, as well as the extended range on his Q. So if you look at his Q skill shot or his E range compared to, say, Amaranth or Zalgus, you're going to be like, oh, that's way shorter. But he's got a 350 range dash on his W that he can use relatively often, and then dash out, obviously, if he gets the reset. Additionally, on his Q, there is another range there, which is the kind of target acquisition range on his E. If you want to step back for a second on the King of Masks, what you'll see in the next patch, and kind of from feedback from the community, is that we do want him to be that control mage archetype. There's been jokes made about, he's control mage, but he still does like tons of damage. So what you're going to see in the next patch is a reduction on damage in some of his abilities, a reduction on the damage scaling on some of his abilities, and then an increase on the CC in some of his abilities. We want to make sure that he's in that space, and we want to make sure that the players feel like he's in that space. So, and we also fixed a few bugs. I think maybe Tulse just said that. But there were a few bugs, double casting E as well as some other kind of strange visual things. So those got fixed as well. So play with the King Mass when the next patch comes out, and then you can see.
Okay. What's the cooldown on Viyana's ulti? That's actually something I don't know.
It starts high. I believe it's 140, and then it goes 125, 110.
Okay.
I'd have to check numbers, but it is a little bit higher than your average ult.
Okay, makes sense. It's a suppress. I mean, it's a super powerful ability. Her abilities do not scale with power. Yeah, they do.
The damage scales with power.
Yes.
On all QWER. She's got a lot of power ratios for support. Well, a lot. She does not meet a mage by any means, but she has those power ratios. And then she also has bonus health scaling on QWE and R.
Okay. Interesting. So random is JTW. What? Random is JTW. Can you jungle Viyana? If you can do it, Scott Moore will be the one who does it, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think that you could probably jungle Viyana like most supports. People that don't scale a huge amount of armor and don't scale a huge amount of health have a lot of trouble in the jungle, especially in the early. I mean, she has the ability to kind of sustain herself, and the E is very effective when you can get all ticks of damage off and all ticks of shielding off, but she just doesn't have the AoE clear on a low enough cooldown. Her W has nice AoE damage, but at rank 1 it takes 22 seconds to generate one orb, and she doesn't have time to build up those orbs before she's doing camps.
Okay. Roy, can you stasis while casting your ultimate skill? I would think not.
She cannot cast any of those spells. However, and this is interesting, and I didn't even think about this, so I'll let you in on the little secret. Chris Orpia, one of our effects artists, when he was doing the effects for this, he was like, this ability seems so OP, and I was like, yeah, but you can get stunned out of it. But you can precast a blitz as Viyana and protect yourself from that CC. I mean, you got to blow your full blitz, which is really expensive, and you got to have blitz on Viyana, which is not always really that great, but you can protect yourself from the CC, at least some of it.
That makes sense. So somebody was asking kind of a question specifically about Viyana, but it's actually, I think it's a general question. Celestiatum, do we feel like there are levers that we can pull to tweak balance to Viyana if she ends up being unbalanced, or do we have solutions in place if she ends up being problematic? And I think that we can answer that question kind of in a more holistic way about all of our shapers.
So every shaper that we come out with, we have a meeting. We have several meetings about their balance kind of before they become live, and we always have one big one right before the characters come out. We say everyone in QA says and design says, where do we think this character is? And we say, probably pretty strong, or maybe right on the money, or maybe they're a little bit weak. And then we always say, what would we do if we wanted to balance this character? And people will say, I think that most of her power is coming from, it's actually the Mortal Strike on her W. It's deceptive, but it's for these reasons, not just kind of like, oh, her Q does tons of damage. So we're always kind of sitting there, awaiting the feedback from the community and waiting for the numbers that we get from telemetry to kind of see where they fall. But we always kind of have things in our mind.
Okay. I saw the question about EU servers. Not for a while, guys. Like, I don't want anybody to think it's even going to be happening in the next couple of months. It's not. It's going to be quite a while before we have EU servers. As far as bot mode, it's something that's being worked on. But again, it's one of those no ETA on bots yet. So
right.
Let's see here, Mr. Tattoo. The caps, they hurt me. What's that painting in the background?
There's a Dibs thing way in the background.
The dope Dibs poster, maybe?
Yeah, there's a Dibs poster way in the background.
Okay. What do you do? What do you view in a case of a toxicity report? Like, how do you view it? Then after a decision made, how is that decision asserted? So, eCastro, we will never discuss what happens to somebody disciplinary action-wise. There are privacy concerns when it comes to that. However, all we can tell you is that your report will be taken. They will be reviewed. We ourselves actually here at Waystone are going to be reviewing the toxicity reports until we bring customer service online, and we will be actioning accordingly. So,
right.
But we will never tell you what we do.
Mighty Morat says, can any CC stop the passive on RW? No. Stunning and Viyana will not stop the passive on RW. You must kill her. The heal on her W is relatively low base values and scaling compared to the frequency that she can use it. So it feels like it would probably be healing a lot, but unless you're focused down several targets or you're doing several engages far apart, it's not actually healing as much as you may have seen in that thing.
Okay. Dibs, what ability do you start with on Viyana?
So I always like to max Q. It lets me be more aggressive. It lets me use my E more often because I can always rely on the health return.
Yep.
Generally, I I play her with mages or bruisers, like I said, who rarely have the ability, except in Fenmore's case, to heal themselves back. So I like to play with someone who knows to be more aggressive and trade more frequently because we're going to be able to get that health back.
Is it mandatory for a game designer to have figurines on their desk? Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, and it's not just designers; it's everybody.
Right.
Everybody. Like I actually had to take home so many of my figurines and swag, like because my wife is now yelling at me because I have too much shit laying around. It's crazy. Is there a haste loadout that you're using when playing Viyana in your dev build, Craig?
I have not tried pure haste on Viyana yet.
Yeah.
Generally, I like to build health regen and health as far as my. We haven't talked about this yet, but I like to build health and health regen where I can in our internal playtests.
Yep.
The health just helps her sustain. Health regen is more effective on her. If I decide if I get low, it's going to be 25% more effective. So getting a lot of health regen is really nice.
Okay.
Vesboy asked for a lore lane. There is no current lore lane for Viyana, but they will be rolled out, and maybe one soon.
No current.
That's right.
No current, guys. So, all right. I'm gonna scooch on in here, guys.
Okay.
So, thank you so much to Dibs for stopping by and doing another exciting shaper reveal.
Yep.
Just to let you guys know at home, beta tomorrow 9 a.m. Sunday midnight, normal beta hours. We will be talking about holiday schedule and stuff like that soon. And but it's been a lot of fun. Hopefully you guys got a lot of questions answered, and we'll be doing some more. Of course, if you have questions, ask them in the subreddit. We'll be sure to pop in there and answer questions, ask them in the forums. Heck, maybe even ask them on Twitch, or Twitter. Excuse me, and we can answer some questions for you there on Twitter. But hopefully you guys are really enjoying that. Thank you very much, guys, for your patience as we've worked towards some of these quality of life features like the auto requeue and the reporting functionality. We know that these have been things that people have desired, and we've done a very we've had to play the balancing game of getting features like that versus getting other very important game features built in. So we really appreciate your guys' patience and working with us while we aim towards those goals. So just like I said earlier, though, we're not done with these features. These are things that we're going to continue to work on, hopefully in significant ways. So, but So be sure to tune in tomorrow at noon. We'll be kicking off the stream per normal for the beta Thursday stream. We'll be giving out beta keys. We'll be playing games with viewers and all that fun stuff. So until next time, guys.
See ya.
Bye-bye. As soon as I can find this. Hold on. There we go.